first lesson is from Psalm 14, 1 through 2. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." They are corrupt. Their deeds are vile. There is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. Here ends the psalm. The second lesson is from Mark 12, 28 to 30. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" "The most important one," answered Jesus, "is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength." Here ends the reading.
A reading from Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 3. And God spoke all these words. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me." Here ends the reading. So we begin our new sermon series on the commandments. And the commandments are important even today. It's how we live our lives. All 15 of those commandments. Oh, turn on the speak.
Moses, this is the Lord thy God, commanding you to obey my law. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. A deaf man could hear you.
What?
Nothing, Gonish, forget it. Oh, Lord, why have you chosen me? What would you have me do for you?
I shall give you my laws, and you shall take them unto the people.
Yes, Lord! Lord, I shall give these laws unto thy people. Hear me! Oh, hear me! All pay heed! The Lord Jehovah, has given unto you these 15 10 commandments for all to obey.
So how many commandments are there? Are you sure? Anybody seen this billboard? Or something very much like it, because we don't have that kind of trees, but I found that same billboard available online. So, how many are there? And that's the question. How many actually are there? So, from the Jewish perspective, okay? From the Jewish perspective, I am Yahweh your God. That is the first commandment. That's from the Jewish perspective. So that's number one. Don't worry, we're not going through all 10 right now. Just pre-warning you. But from the Catholics and the Lutherans and most Protestants, they consider that to be a prologue. It's the beginning of the 10 Commandments, but it's not the first commandment. And from the Orthodox, Reformed, and Anglican Church, they also consider that to be a prologue as well. So there's a little bit of debate. Is it 10 or 11? Or actually, could it even be more? Anybody know where the 10 Commandments were given out at? Mount what? Mount Sinai, or actually, even Mount Horeb. because they actually get interchanged the names, and it's referring a lot of times to the same place. So Sinai or Horeb, you are fine on either. But if you look at Wikipedia, because Wikipedia has all the information, it's Mount Sinai. So just how many commandments are there? Anybody have an idea? Well, I'm just asking commandments. How many commandments are in the Old Testament? Let's go with that. How many commandments are in the Old Testament? Yeah, because every law is a commandment. It's something that God says you will do or you will not do. So, from the Jewish perspective, there are 613 commandments. The mitzvah in the Hebrew, extracted from the entire Old Testament, is 613. This is why Jewish people do not proselytize, because they know that most of us are considered a burden to follow all these laws. For them, they don't consider it a burden because they are the people of the law. This is what they've always known. So following these laws is just part of their life. But for us, can you imagine? Anybody here like shrimp? Oh, you don't get that anymore. Who loves to have that nice pork roast? Yeah, you don't get to have that. How about cheese on top of your hamburger? Don't get to have that either, because that's not kosher. So, and you can't have hot dogs unless they're blessed by a rabbi. They got to be kosher. So there's a lot of laws. So 613 laws as part of the commandments. Now, so totals including the prologue and some commandments. So I said prologue, and then there's some sub-commandments to the commandments. So you have like 1, 1a, 1b, 2, 5, 5a. So how do you look at all that? So if we just take a look at the Orthodox, Reformed, and Anglican, it comes out to 12 because you don't count the prologue, and so it's 12 because it's a prologue. 12 is the answer. Catholic and Lutherans, how many do you think we have? Believe it or not, we have 12. Where we put the 1A's and the B's are all a little bit different. But the Jewish start off right at the very beginning, and they come up with 12 too. Because the prologue is not 1. It is 1. It's not a prologue. And you count all the way down, there is 12. But today we're going to talk about I am Yahweh your God. I am the Lord your God. I am Yahweh. The Jews consider this to be the first commandment, and most people hear that and understand that as the first commandment. That's one of the things about that 10 Commandments billboard that kind of gets me is, okay, we know what the 10 Commandments are, or at least have a general good idea. Those billboards are targeting people who don't know. So that also means if they don't know, is there a significance of the 10 Commandments to those people? I suspect there probably isn't a significance. Because if they don't know about the commandments, the laws that God has given, what difference would it make to them? But we know them, so I think it's possibly targeting the wrong people. The essence of this covenant right here, I am Yahweh your God. The essence of this is a relationship, an essence of relationship from a biblical perspective that is faithfulness. God says, I am your God. That speaks, I am faithfully your God. I will be your God. I will be with you. It's a faithfulness. God's faithfulness to God's people had already been demonstrated throughout Exodus as he led God's people out of Egypt. God was in front of them all the time, protected them all the time. That was being faithful to God's people. So some of us say this is a prologue, some of us say it's a commandment, but no matter what, it speaks of who God is for us. And in turn, though, God requires of God's people more than anything else: a faithfulness and a relationship with Him. And in that, God says, you will have no other gods before me, which we will cover next week. And that's where it turns into an A. So, God is who God is, and speaks to that all the time. Yahweh, God, should always be in the forefront of us. God should be our center of our being. But more than a center, when we place God at the center and allow God to wrap and envelop us and come in and out and through us, then everything that we do is through the eyes and through the color of God. Imagine living a life today where everything you did, the breath you take, the person that you wake up next to and say, hi, because there's days that nobody's feeling good. Or the person you wake up next to and go, hi, and they say, shh. The people that you encounter, the people that are homeless and dirty and needing your help. Imagine if everything was seen through God. How different it would be. Placing God in the forefront, God speaks, in that God says, I am Yahweh, your God. He says, I am here, I am front, I am center with you all the time. And when we place that in our daily lives, we see God is our God, and there is no exceptions to that. When we allow that to be, there can be no exceptions. Yahweh is the God we wake to. Yahweh is the God we are confronted on a daily and nightly basis. Yahweh is the God in our dreams. Yahweh is the God that guided the Israelites by day and by night and guides us as well. Yahweh is the God that sends the Son to walk among us as both human and as God. Yahweh is the God who gives us the Holy Spirit until Jesus, the Son of God, comes back again in the clouds. God is and should be always the center of everything, allowing God to envelop, surround us, be inside of us, wrapping us. Everything we are, everything that we do, everything that we see, smell, hear, our very being was, is, and always will because of Yahweh. All because of Yahweh. So next week, we will talk about you shall have no other gods. So think about that this week. Yahweh, I am your God. And prepare for next week. You shall have no others. And all God's people said, amen.